you. Good evening, Stoke. It's fantastic to be here at another one of our meetings. You know, what we've done in the course of this referendum campaign is we've decided that actually this question of whether Britain should govern itself, whether we should chart our own destiny, whether we should control our own borders, matters far more than whether we're from the left or the right or the centre of politics. This is not about left and right, it's about right and wrong, and we believe we're on the right course. And I say that because I have believed ever since my career in business. Yes, I had a job before being in politics. How about that? How about that? George Osborne could learn a thing or two. But I believed, and the reason I came into politics is I believe the best people to govern Britain are the British people themselves through the ballot box. Now, sadly, our political class don't appear to agree with me or the rest of this panel this evening. And we see a parade of people telling us we must stay part of this European Union. We see the septuagenarian Kenneth Clarke appearing on television more than at any point in his career. We see the former European Commissioner, Peter Mandelson, appearing regularly on our television screens telling us we have no future but to be part of this political union. And we have Tony Blair. It's funny, that cheer is always strongest in Labour-held seats, I've noticed. And we have Tony Blair, and we have all of them, but sadly, we also have our Prime Minister. Well, he's more popular than Blair, anyway. And we have our Prime Minister who decided what a good idea it would be to spend nearly £10 million of our money putting this leaflet through everyone's door in the land. Did you get this leaflet? What did you do with it? No, don't answer that. So I got this leaflet, and I thought, what an absolute outrage that he should spend £10 million of our money telling us what we should think, how we should vote, and what we should do. I thought the whole point of this referendum is that it was supposed to be free and fair. But clearly it's not. Clearly it's not. But what really annoyed me was when I opened this document up and it said, if we vote to remain in the EU, we will keep our own border controls. Now, I'm not so sure the Prime Minister's telling the truth in this document, are you? I'm being polite tonight because, no, I am, because there's a Tory Cabinet Minister coming on later and I wouldn't want to embarrass him. But the fact is that your British passport, that passport that 65 million of us are entitled to, well, that's the 65 million we know about. The Remain side hate me saying that, and what they hate even more is when I call them the Romanians. Well, it always gets me in trouble. It doesn't really matter anymore, does it? But the point is that British passport is now not just held by 65 million people, it's held by 508 million people, any of whom can come to live, work and settle in our country. And as net migration into Britain is running at 10 times the post-war average, is it any wonder that we have the crisis with primary school places? Is it any wonder we have the crisis with our National Health Service? Is it any wonder that wages are being driven down? Is it any wonder that our quality of life has deteriorated over the last decade and more? And for the government to tell me that if we vote to remain, we maintain border controls is, I think, nothing short of despicable. And that is why last Friday I booked an appointment and I strolled up Downing Street and I took this leaflet and I put it back through the door of number 10 with a message mark saying, "Return to sender." Now today we have the Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, telling us that if we vote to leave the European Union, it will cost all of us £4,300 a year. It is a claim so ludicrous, he may as well have put a naught on the end of it. It's a claim being made by somebody who clearly doesn't understand how business, trade and commerce operate. People do business, people trade not because of governments, not because of deals. They trade because consumers choose to buy a product, or they choose not to buy a product. And the fact is that we now trade with the European Union at a deficit of nearly £80 billion a year. We are the Eurozone's biggest export market in the world. They need us far more than we need them. And people will go on buying German motor cars. And I will go on buying my favourite Rioja. I mean, I'm going to do it regardless of whether we're in this union or not. We will go on doing business. And yet the Chancellor paints this deeply dark scenario that somehow nobody would buy a product, a good or a service if we weren't members of this union. It shows how completely out of touch with reality they are. But what they're doing, what the Romanians are doing in this campaign, is they are trying to threaten us, they are trying to bully us, they are trying to make all of you think that we are not big enough and we are not strong enough to run our own country, to make our own laws and to control our own borders. And I first saw this close up in the debates I did with Nick Clegg. I would have expected better than that, I really would. I'll have another go. What a good idea. Come on, Nick Clegg, can we do better than that? Thank you. And I did those debates with Nick Clegg in 2014 when he challenged me to the head-to-head TV debates. He said Britain isn't strong enough, Britain isn't big enough to make its own trade deals in the world. And I said, Nick, what you really mean isn't that we're not big enough, isn't that we're not strong enough, you don't think we're good enough. That's what Nick Clegg means. That is what nearly the entire establishment of this country, that is what they think. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're big enough. I think we're strong enough. I think we're good enough. I believe in Britain. Do you? And not only can we trade with our European neighbours, and by the way, I love Europe. I believe in Europe. You know, my kids are bilingual. I'm happy to holiday in France, drink Spanish wine. I want us to be good next-door neighbours. Actually, in many ways, we are the true pro-Europeans because we believe in a Europe of individual sovereign nation-states with their different cultures and different cheeses, trading and working together. But we want something bigger than that. We want a recognition that it is a ludicrous position for Britain to be unable to stand on its own 2 feet, to negotiate its own relationships around the rest of the world. I want us to trade with Europe, but to open ourselves up, especially to a group of countries. There are 53 of them in this club. There are 2.2 billion people living in this club. They speak English, they have common law, they have similar contract law, and they come and stand and fight beside us when we're in trouble. And the sooner we re-engage with a broader Commonwealth, the better as a nation of the world will be. This referendum is about one simple, basic point. And you can hear George Osborne telling us it could cost us 6% of GDP. And I will tell you that EU membership is costing us today 4% of GDP. But in the end, this is not about economic forecasts. In the end, this is about something much simpler and much more basic. In the end, this is about, do you wish us to be a self-governing, democratic, independent nation, or part of a bigger political union in which at best we have an 8% say? This is the word we used to use was sovereignty. It's about self-government. It's about identity. It's about whether we are a proper nation or not. And I believe for good or bad, we must and we should honour and respect those that went before us, and twice in the 20th century. I believe that democratic self-government is better than being ruled by a bunch of unelected old men in Brussels whose names we don't know. Although, you know, to be fair, I've done my bit to try and make one or two of them more famous than they were before. But this is about us governing our country. It's about us controlling our borders. It's about us being the masters of our own destiny, charting our own course and recognising that if a British government makes a Horlicks of it, we can get rid of them and replace them with somebody else. That is what this referendum is all about. And against this endless tide of negativity, we need to be upbeat. We need to be positive. We need to be saying, we want our country back. We want our country back. Say it with me. We want our country back. And we're going to get it. And June the 23rd is going to be Independence Day. Thank you. Thank you. You're lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. What did I hear? Oh, I say. Thank you very much, God. You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.